Okay, in the interest of time, we can start, I believe. Okay, people are keep joining. So, hi, class, good evening. We are today going to the class of regulatory processes of the medical devices. Like, medical devices are something different from main drugs or medicines, but and also the medical device do not have their own pharmacological action. They are useful to administer the drug. They are useful to support the treatment, but they do not have any treatment. Okay. So now moving forward. So what is medical device actually? It is an instrument, apparatus, implant, machine, contrivance, implant, in vitro reagents or other similar or related article introducing a component part or accessories which is recognized. So this is like these can be called as medical device based on some standards recognized in the official national formulae or United States of Pharmacopoeia or any supplemental of them. Okay, intended for the use in the diagnosis of a treatment or other condition or in the cure, mitigation, treatment, prevention of disease in man or other animals. Okay, so first thing is that it need to be have written somewhere that some standard document, some standard guidance that yes, we are, because that's how that medical device get recognized. Okay, if those are not recognized, then it is they do not have no value. Okay, because same thing can be work like a medical device and same thing can be some other use also, but there should be some specification. The scissor is also an medical device, but scissor is also homemade use as well. Okay, scissor are multifunctional, you can say, but the scissor which are used in the as a medical device, they have certain specification. You have seen that every time the scissors would be there in the hospitals. They cannot use any iron scissor or some other plastic scissors which are in the market for homemade use. Okay, same way it is intended to use in the diagnosis of the disease or other conditions which can, you know it is do not have any their own use, but they are utilized to diagnose the or diagnose the disease. Like what, when you have fever, you have a thermometer as a medical device, which can useful to measure the temperature of body. Okay, BP apparatus is there which can provide you the pulse rate. Okay, but they do not have their own effect. Other conditions or in cure of mitigation, treatment or prevention of the disease in man or other animal or. And last is what? Intended to affect the structure or any function of the body of the man or other animal, and which does not achieve any of the primary intended purpose through the chemical action. So yes, what they are saying chemical action is when you are not able to achieve something with the help of drug, then medical devices are utilized. Okay, in it, and it can be utilized in animal and man anywhere. Okay, and the achievement of the, and it is something like drug is intended for, nowadays we have seen there is a insulin pens coming into the market. That is, you can rotate or you can fix the dose like zero point 0.5 micron if you want to inject to the diabetic patient, and you have to just click and it will dispense the same amount of the drug. Okay, that's how they are, achieving the intended purpose. So pen is what? It is a medical device, and it helps to intended uses to inject the appropriate amount of the insulin. Okay, what is the syringe? You have seen the insulin syringe are very thin and very small in the shape. Okay, because they have to inject very little amount of insulin to the body, and the insulin injection is given intraperitoneal. Okay. So most of the time it is given in the stomach only. Okay. So what is medical device industry? It is also a booming industry. It is a more than $100 billion industry, in which only US market is of 42% of shares of worldwide market. Okay. US innovation derives the market, the more US products than rest of the world combined. So yes, that's why it is a market leader in the medical device industry. It captures the market share of the 42%, and rest all other countries have only remaining 58%. Okay. So why? Because the innovation is more in US market, and they are more towards the automation and innovation. That's why they are creating more and more medical devices in comparison to other countries. And it increase is also difficult to get commercialized. Okay. It doesn't, because why it is very difficult to get commercialized? Because the medical devices are not the cheaper one. If you suppose you want to buy a wheelchair for some disabled person, it is not that much easy to buy. Okay. It seems easy, but it is not that much easy. Because if someone buy, then they can do black marketing of those things. So there are proper prescription required, there are proper some documentation required, some authority approval is required, some hospital receipt is required. That okay, that is the scene nowadays. And like, if you want to, nobody can have the oxygen cylinders in their home, nobody can have the stretcher in their home until unless they are very rich. Okay. Otherwise, people who common persons only have only one, and one common solution, that they have to go to hospital for to avail these facility of medical device. So next is the consumer versus agency regulations. So as I told you, consumer can consume, but they also need to have proper prescription for each and every instruments, because these instruments, if you want to have the syringe, then it is fine that it is very low grade, you can say. But if you want some high grade ventilator, okay, then you do not get ventilator very easily. And also it is some cost incur. Okay, the cost of ventilator is so much. You can see the machines, ECG machine, X-ray machine, you are not able to avail it if you until and if you want to open your some diagnostic lab or something. In that scenario, you require so much thing, you require so much approvals. Okay. Because of that only you are able to achieve those things. Increasing the control, improve safety and effectiveness at expense of the commercial progress. So yes, the control means the implementation of regulations, that you have to have this, you have to maintain this much standard, then only your medical device would be in the market. Otherwise it would not be. Okay. That also increase the expense of the commercial purpose progress. Because if you have to take, previously you do not have to take approvals, you can directly take the medical device from the manufacturer, and you can now sell into the common public. But nowadays trends are getting changed. If you have buy some substandard or degraded product, then you are not able to sell it, because those are not fulfilling the standards which was required to fulfill by the, and those standards are set by the some regulatory authorities. Overseas manufacturing and product launch. So yes, most of the time, like for example, if you want to have pacemaker for a patient, then the cost of pacemaker is so much, and so many time it is getting imported from other countries. Okay, because India is not making that machines or that medical devices in house. That's why. manufacturing is always overseas and it is getting imported into the our country. Some examples of medical device are like implant, racing, the patient monitoring equipment, the X-ray systems, the wheelchairs, the hearing aid device of the blood glucose measurement. These are some device, medical device, and not only this, you have seen thermometer, BP apparatus, the needle, the syringe, all are what? These are medical device. Even the stretchers are medical device. Whatever the thing which is consumed as a health consumed by healthcare sector to improve the patient care is called as the medical device. Okay, so these are some pictures of the medical device. Like this is the X-ray machine, this is the ECG machine, okay, the ventilator, okay, this is the insulin monitor. Yes, it is having needle here, and you can just click on this button, and that needle is putting inside the body, and the blood will come, and it will give you the glucose level in this display. Okay, these are some more pictures like syringe is there. These are some, to tie the bottles or some connector of connecting the vials. These are also some medical devices. These are the humidity monitors, and these are required to monitor the temperature and humidity. Both can be monitored by this. So these are some common medical devices. So how medical devices are different from the drug? So drug based on the chemistry and pharmacology, device based on the engineering. The drug is basically for safety and efficacy, and device is basically for safety and performance. And when we are saying performance, so it is means accuracy. So drug have gone through the clinical trial like phase one, phase two, phase three, four phases of the clinical trial. And same way device have to pass the clinical evaluation that is called feasibility test. Okay. We have GMP, good manufacturing practice for drug. We have QMS, that quality manufacturing services for medical devices. In drug development, we see the local and systemic toxicity, and in device, we saw the biocompatibility. Like means biocompatibility means how much compatible device is with your body. Okay, when it is bio means something living thing. So how much a living one is compatible with the medical device. The long product life cycle, because it takes clinical trial to get success 10 to 15 years, and this device can be developed as soon as possible. It depends on the need only. The short product life cycle. The drug interaction can be happen in the drugs, but in device malfunction can be happen. Okay. So these are some basic difference between the drug and device. So this is the classification based on the risk for the device, like low class is A, that is low risk, B is the low to moderate risk, C is moderate to high risk, and D is high risk. Okay, so what are those examples are like low risk is thermometer, tongue depressor, surgical dressing, swab, something are very low risk because it is not going inserting your inside your body. Okay, so some moderate risk is why in which like hypodermic needle because it is going inside your body, suction equipment, hematological reagent kit because it is going to react with your blood sample, and then they are going to give you the result. If it is not proper, then it will not give you actual result. So some moderately high risk medical devices are lung ventilator, bone fixation plates, the intraocular lenses, because it is directly inserting your inside your body. It is either temporary or permanent. In case of intraocular lenses, it is also directly in touch of your eye. If it is not comfortable or it is reacting, then it will be not good for your eyes. High risk are cardiac stent implant, defibrillator, cochlear implants. So all these are permanent and always. inside your body, keep inside your body. That's why it is high risk. Okay. So remember the class A, B, C, D. So the device regulations. So device regulations come into the picture from 1976, where there's a medical device FD and CA is launched, and based on that they have launched some addendum. And in 1978, GMP for the good manufacturing practice was launched, in which very little amount of description was given for the medical device only, and it is one liner or two liner. That's why the more regulation are required. Okay, that's why the process of validation and design control was developed in 1987 and 1989. Subsequently, in 1990, there was a product that is recalled from the market because of the faulty design, and it happens. And after that, the QSR, the quality services, need to be there, and it is getting harmonized among the FDA, MDDA, and ISO. Okay, so these are some common names and some common regulations which was happened in the past. So medical device and the regulations device are categorized into, so in also this regulation, the device are categorized into some certain category based on the risk of inherent in the device. So like class 1, that is low risk apparatus and standalone software. There is then class 2A and 2, it is not 11, actually it is 2A and 2B, that is medium risk, and class 3 is high risk. Okay, the conformity assessment and the CE mark depends on the, CE is nothing, the, it is like a class of the medical device, depends on the product and the class. So what is that? Non-invasive device. Okay, so non-invasive device are what we can see here, that class 1 is the in contact with the injury. Okay, and provide the mechanical barrier like plaster, wood gauzes. Okay, class 2A is intended to magnet macro environment of the wound. Okay, what they do, they manage microenvironment of the wound and control the moisture at the wound. For example, hydrogel dressing, not for intensive wounds. So it is something. So that's why class 1 is very, like it is outside the body and it is not dealing with the wounds directly. Okay, they are just working as a barrier, and the class 2 is work dealing with the wound, but the wound size is very small and it is not for extensive wounds. Class 2B is for intended for the wounds which are breech dermises, so which are like not on dermis, even inside the dermis. The dermis is the first layer of the body, okay, and heal only by the secondary intended, and serves like it is for burns and for temporary skin substitutes. It can be utilized. The class second B. So the class 1 is like if you satisfied that your medical device complies with the requirements. So this is medical device development. MDD is medical device development, and it is you know you must have a statement of the clarification or declaration of conformity that on this the new application system of the class 1 device online registration system must have, they must have this device like registration in. So, and this regulation was published in 11th of Feb 2015. So this is basically for class 1 device. For class 2 device, they also have some safety and performance need to be adequately demonstrated. That may need to be clinical investigations if insufficient existing clinical data. Okay. So what are these classes actually? These classes are nothing but these are based on the risk associated with these uh, medical devices, and there are certain performance measures, certain regulations which need to be performed before implementing those into the market. Okay. Now coming to the next point, that is device requiring the clinical investigation. That is device is implantable or class third medical device, introducing in the new concept of the device into medical device practice. That is existing device modified so a novel feature may have important physiological effect sometime. So they are saying that the class 3 drugs or class 3 medical device may have some physiological effect. Okay. And it need to be get qualified by the clinical performance, and also the safety of the device is the prime focus, and it need to be get ensured while using the class 3 drugs, class 3 medical devices. Sorry guys, I am repeating as a drug every time. Okay. Device requiring the clinical investigation. So all the class 3 drug still require clinical investigation because it is directly or indirectly going to inside your body. Okay. So medical device directive. So there are certain directives which were given at the time of development of the medical device or medical device regulations. So active implant device directive, okay, that is called as AIMDD, that covers all powdered implant or partial implants that are left in the body like pacemaker. So the device which are going inside the body, those need to follow this directive. Okay, that is 9385 EC, and this directive is basically for active implant device directive. Second directive is 9342 EEC. So guys, this numbering is something which is like in the document they have some paragraphs, some lines. So in the 90 paragraph, they have 385 number line in which they have written something about the active implant directive. So that's why it is classified like that. And this is become as a directive because these are some guide or some directive which is a kind of repository of so many regulations. So how you have to find based on these numbers only. So it covers the MDD, that is Medical Device Directive, and it covers most of the other medical devices which are not a part of AI MDD. And last is the 9079 EC, that is basically for in vitro diagnostic device, and it covers the device which is a reagent instrument apparatus for use in vitro, for example specimen for the human body like hepatitis B testing kits. So the like when we are taking blood samples and we are mixing some reagents, so all those reagents and diagnostic kits comes under this directive, that is IVD, in vitro diagnostic device. So first you need to understand what is the difference between the directive and the regulation. Directive is something that is called as you can say guidance, which is not mandatory. So that is okay, must create or adapt their legislation to meet these aims. Okay. And regulation is something which you have to have follow because it is a law and it have to have follow. So the directive is then just the guidance, and regulation is something obligation. You have to have follow it. Okay. So, like for example, you can see the EU directives are there and EU regulations are there to have for medical devices. Okay. So it is the EU Commission which have certain EU. EU means it is European Union, and they have their own. Someone is saying something. They have their own regulations that is called medical device regulations, and when it is for EU, so they have called as the EU Commission Medical Device Regulation. So in 2008, they have launched their consultation for medical devices framework. In 2012, EU Commission published a proposal for the new medical device regulation. In 2014, Q2, EU Parliament adopted position for medical device regulations. So these are journey like how the regulation get published, or you can say no, like they also have the same classification, and the classification is basically on based on the risk only. Okay, if the risk is moderate, so there are two type of classification I already covered: the class A, B, C, D, and class one, class two A, two B, and class three. So they both are like same. Okay, they have four classes. Here also they have the four classes. Okay, so this is the Journey Act in 2017. They have published their own and adopt the MDR regulation, that is medical device regulation, and in vitro diagnostic reagent regulation. Okay. Now the key changes, that is notified bodies, clinical evidences, pre-marketed. So what are these actually? Like these are strengthened criteria. So notified bodies are who? They have some member states and commission states. Okay, they can do the unannounced audits so that they can check whether each and everything is fine, whatever the device their companies are developing, whether it is intended for the use which is fulfilled or not. Clinical evidences, so they are having the checking each and every evidences, like less equivalences, the more data of the high risk devices. So what they are doing, like if you are developing two devices, suppose if you are having thermometer in place and you also having ventilator in place, so might be they you just need a certification or just need one specification for thermometer, but they will getting detail for ventilator, or if it is something implant which is going inside, suppose it is a pacemaker, then they will going they will need so much document that what is the life cycle for that pacemaker, what is the battery backup, and whether we have any certification for this uh, pacemaker, because and it should be non-reactive. Okay, because it is inside the your body always. Okay, so that's kind of a scrutiny is required. So public safety and performance data need to be have when we are having the clinical evidences, when we are talking the clinical evidences. So whether the medical device is safer for the use of the medicine, the public or not, the performance data would be there, whether the medical device is consistent for their performance or not, or they are every time they are changing the reading, then also there is a gap. Okay, is scrutiny of the high risk devices, like if the some device which is high risk, so it need to have scrutinized every time, and the interval need to be set, that whether it is every month or like you can see there are clear cut instructions for utilizing the hypodermic needles, that it is single use needle, and you have to have destroy that needle just after the use, because why it is required? Because it is directly touching your body, if and going inside your blood. If your blood is contaminated, you are going to give, and same needle is used. then it will go to contaminate some others person as well. Okay. Common specifications need to be checked. Common specification is basically for the general instruments or general medical devices. Responsible person for manufacturer and or authorized representatives. So yes, these need to have the all detail with their own for the medical devices which they are going to market, because it is a pre-marketing thing. So there should be a, if it, companies do not have, so they have to have hire a person who is responsible for manufacturing and who is the face of company. In suppose if something happened and we are looking for some authorized person and no one is there, so whom we should caught or whom we should consult, because it happens so many times. If some device is giving you bad effect, so what companies do, they shut their doors and it they are denying that this product do not belong to us. It happens. These are the real scenarios which happens. To the next, the post market surveillance and vigilance. So central databases and coordination centers should be there. Trend reporting, enforcement activities. So as I told you that what happens in ICSR, same is need to be required here, that you can have the central databases where you can collect the report for the medical devices. Not only that, you can have the coordination centers which can coordinate with the medical device companies and the consumer as well who are availing those medical devices. Trend reporting, whether the medical devices is safer or some, you know, trend means whether it is safe or it is harmful, what kind of trend is coming from the medical device market, and which device is giving you more effect and which device is not giving you the intended effect. Enforcement activities well means if there is some regulation implemented, whether it is getting followed or not followed. If it is followed, so what is, whether they have the proper documentation, whether they have the proper certification of the device, whether the device is ISO certified, whether the device is MDR approved or not. Okay, so that kind of the thing need to be taken care when it is under enforcement activity. Transparency and the traceability, the device and economic operator registered centrally. So all the device which is in the market have to have centrally registered and they have certain numbers as well. That is called the unique device identification number. And why it happens? Because that UDI belongs to certain, like what our today we have Aadhaar ID. Okay, all the Aadhaar number belongs to certain one person. If you put the Aadhaar number, you will get all the detail whether from which country you belong. Sorry, not country. From which state you belongs from. What is your address? What is your name? So same way, they each device also have their UDI number. That is unique device identification. And once you keep it in feed into your system, you will come to know that it is a hypodermic needle or what kind of device it is. Okay, implant card. Like suppose if it is implant, the implants are having cards or some specification cards are there. Specification card product something kind stand for SSP CP. Right now I'm not able to recall it, but this is something related to specification of the product that have to have with the medical devices. Governance and oversight. So central committees need to be are there in place. The medical device committee and governance would be there, expert panel, expert laboratories, all these are there to have a oversight for the whether medical device regulation are followed or not followed, whatever the medical device are into the market, whether it is used safely or they are using for some unintended use. Okay, those are some key changes. And now what are the regulations? There are certain EU regulation basically that is developed in 2017, and the number is like 745. So they have certain chapters in their that regulations that chapter 1 is basically for scope and definition. Chapter second is for CE marketing, Central European Marketing Economic Operator Reprocessing. Third is basically for identification traceability of the. So these are nothing but it is a regulation, and what chapter belongs to which are the same. Okay. So it is basically why this medical device regulation is required, what is under this so these are certain articles. Okay. And the annexure covers how you can achieve the safety of the medical devices. So transition timeline for India, like when you are going for the medical device regulations, so it also takes some 5 year timeline basically. Means it depends. Like you can see here, the transition period is 3 years from the entry. You have some to follow the regulations. What required? You need to do all the testing, and even you have this transition period in which you can get some numbers, some registration number, and you are getting registered, but still you have to monitor during this 3 years period. It is not like that, like medical device can be marketed whether their development phase also, because it is not like the drug that once it is getting approved by government, then only it will be marketed. No, it can be marketed under the development phase, but to the limited population. Anyhow, medical devices, the intended population is going to use. If it is hypodermic needle for diabetic series, then only diabetic patient is going to use same. But because why I'm saying specification, because drugs can be used by anyone. Suppose, and multiple drugs are there that have multi-use, but medical device do not have that thing. They have to serve intended use. If it is a bone fixation plate, so it is going to fix the bone only. It will not, you cannot use it for anything else. If it is a thermometer, it is just going to give you the temperature. It will not give you anything else. Okay. But with drug, it may be, a single drug like category of NSAID. It can be utilized in pain, it can be utilized in swelling, it can be utilized in fever, and it can be utilized in headache as well. Agreed or not? But so that's why when medical devices are intended for single use, so they need to be get more regulated. Okay. So that is the transition period. Yeah. If there is some issues with their devices, they have get chance to improve everything. Then they also have, if still they have some lacking, so they can apply for the mm, grace periods, and till the 4 years grace period they will get. And when everything is fine, okay, then they will get certified, and from that moment you can certified with the as an MDR certified, that medical device regulation you have passed and you are certified. So it is also like very typical because it required 7 hard years. Okay. And once it is you are certified, then you can. So I believe after 10 years, there is no relicensing is required, but there is a renewal process that is need to be done after 10 years. So US FDA regulations are also there for device and pharmaceuticals. So like the CFR part 3 to 112, 340, the INDA, the NDA, the investigational new drug, the new drug approval. same for pharmaceuticals. So I'm not going to cover the part 600, the 601, general biologicals and biological antibiotics. I believe so. And now they have also some chapters in CFR 21 for medical devices. That is part 812, part 809. That is for in vitro diagnostics 814, the PMA, the part 807, and subpart E 510. So these are basically for the CFR regulation. CFR is nothing, it is a regulatory body and it is called Code of Federal Reserve. So it is comes under the US FDA, and US FDA write a book of regulation that is called Code of Federal Reserve. Okay, and that Code of Federal Reserve also have certain regulations. So same, you can now you are getting the answer of your question, like whether the class of drug is different in US. Someone asked. So again, the class might be different, but it is also depend on the risk. So you can see the same. The EU also have the one second class, they have second A, second B, but they do not have AB. They are saying second A. Okay, they also have certain QMS audit, some predictability, availability, some regulatory pathway, some US agents and US FDA timelines. Okay, for low risk, you have to get a license within 1 month. For medium risk, which is just post of approval. So they required 9 to 12 months for medium risk. Again, that is something. So it is basically that same way. Which what is the difference between the second A and second B? I believe same as like here also. So in the case of second class, medium risk is 18 to 30 months, and for high risk it is also 18 to 30 months. For And this is the time post approval. Even after approval, you require this much time to getting USFD approval. Okay, because they check that yes, it is from 1 month into the market, and it is not giving any ADR, and it is safer for the use. They are monitoring these things. Then only they are providing the FDA that FDA approval. And FDA approval is not that much easy, because FDA approval means US licensing. And when you are saying US licensing, means based on US licensing, you are getting license in all over the globe. Because US is something, when you are saying who is the world power, US is the world power. Okay, when you have to have the compare the economy, to whom you are going to compare with the US, because US economy is on top, and US is top in most of the thing. Okay, suppose there is a person in your class who is always going to be rank 1 from class 1, class 2 till 12th. He is the class 1. He is the first in the pharmacy also is getting first. So whether you are going to compare yourself from the first person, or you are going to compare with the backbencher? No, no. You are not going to compare with the backbencher. You have to set the standard from the person who has rank 1. Same way, if you are getting licensing from the US, means you are getting it is easy to get, because same way, if you are applying for the visa of US, if you are getting US visa, no one else is going to decline your visa for any other country. So these are some regulation. Let's look at the basic regulation of the US based manufacturer and distributor that have the. So for establishment and regulation of the medical device listing, they have CFR part 807 for pre-market notification, that is 500K. 10K for 21 CFR So these are basically for what? The pre-marketing approval, that is PMA, is some regulation is there. So each and every regulation is based on the CFR 21. The MDR, the medical device reporting is there, the labeling requirement, what is required, what need to be written in the label, everything is have in this regulation. What is the quality system should be there for the medical device, the investigational device exemption, okay, for clinical studies, which device can be utilized in clinical studies, because clinical studies for drug which we are using also require so many medical devices, so many apparatus. Okay, so these are the class, as I already told you. So these are the regulatory control, general control, general. So second is the moderate and third is the high risk. Okay. Some example is there, like elastic bands, stethoscope, silicone gel, field, field blast, prosthetics. Okay. So this is like what you can achieve based on the classification of device. Then there is the identification of the USR requirement. Then like it is the life cycle of the device, how a journey starts from classification till the approval. What are the steps? Okay, like predicating of the device identification, the gap analysis of the source document, whether all the source documents are properly or not, compilation of the technical files, okay, creation of the valid e-copies, creation and validation of the e-copies, which e-copies means because we have to fill everything online to the portal, so we have to verify. After verification we have to submit the application. Once this we submit, whether we receive the USFDA approval or not, and once, so as I told you, you have to appoint a responsible person. Same in EU, we have to appoint a EU responsible person. Uh, Same way in US, we have to appoint a US agent. Okay, establishment of the registration and device license listing. Okay, it get need to be registered into the device listing as well, and post approval activities and compliance. So post approval activities means you have to have go for the marketing of that medical device, and whatever the compliance you have to follow, like after what time it getting renewed, that everything should be there. So I believe that's all for the medical device regulation from my end. Yes. If you have anything from your end, you can ask. Else, we are good with the session. Any query from your end? We are still have 5 7 minutes. So, in India also there is a program running that is called Material Vigilance Program of India. Okay, it is same in the umbrella of the pharma PVPI, the Business Program of India. So, Material Vigilance Program of India is basically to monitor the medical devices. Same way, we also running a program that is called the Hematoglycinase Program of India. That is basically for the blood products or the biological products, the hematological. You can go for those things also. And in material vigilance, there are so many organizations like, and not only the pharma organization nowadays, the engineering companies, because device is something related to the engineering. Those are coming into the market. Like L&D is there, who is actively involved in medical device organization. There are so many other, and those are engineering companies or instrument companies coming into the market for, like you have seen the Parkinson lab. So Parkinson have their own instruments also. Okay. So guys, that's all from my end. If you have any query, you can ask anything. Else, we are good to wrap up. I will wait for 2 minutes then for your questions or queries. Okay, if no queries, then we can wrap up. Thank you guys very much. Thank you and have a lovely weekend ahead.